Okay, Robin. What happened to my great-great-grandfather, Ira, our pal Ira?
I did find a document in the newspaper records that I think might shed a little bit of light on Ira's life.
So, the Macon Daily Telegraph, November 13th, 1860. The census that I saw was from July of 1860. So just a few months later, died Tuesday, October 30th, 1860, of consumption. Richard M. Mullally. Is that Ira?
It is.
It is.
It is. Census takers on occasion would make mistakes in name recording. This document also is backed up by other documents as well, showing that Richard is actually Ira.
Consumption, what was it exactly?
It's tuberculosis.
That's really sad.
I have a document that might give you information about their marriage as well.
Oh my gosh. Okay. The Weekly Georgia Telegraph, November 22nd, 1859. Bibb Superior Court. Richard M. Mullally was tried. Oh no, not really though. Richard M. Mullally was tried. Oh no, not really though. Okay. No. Richard M. Mullally was tried and convicted on an indictment for whipping his wife and sentenced to imprisonment in common jail for 6 months. So he literally whipped his wife with a whip. His young 22-year-old wife who had, wait a minute. She was pregnant because my great-grandfather, Charles, he was born in June of 1860. And this is November 22nd, 1859. That makes me really sad. So, she was maybe a couple of months pregnant, but she probably knew.
That partially might explain why the sentence was so severe. 6 months was a maximum penalty, so whipping was a misdemeanor.
6 months was the maximum for whipping your wife.
And to get that maximum sentence, it had to be an extreme case. Her neighbors might have noticed the abuse and reported it. She actually couldn't file a case against him because she's a legal entity the same as her husband. Other people would have to intervene.
Women in 19th century America were bound by the restrictive marriage laws of coverture that dated back to medieval England. Under coverture, when a woman married, she became one with her husband by law and no longer had a legal identity of her own. A married woman could not make contracts or a will or take custody of her own children. Any wages she earned were controlled by her husband. She could not legally own anything, not even the clothes on her back. And when a wife like Elizabeth Mullally was beaten by her husband, she had no legal means to stop him.
Whew. Okay. So he's home for 5 months, and then he passes away on October 30th.
And at this point, Elizabeth is on her own.
So she has no visible means of support, and she's got 2 babies.
Mm-hmm. We know from what you stated that Elizabeth remarries.
Mm-hmm. In 1861 to James Venable.
Times were very difficult. There was a great deal of upheaval socially. Abraham Lincoln's elected southern states start to secede from the Union and move into war. And so that's the environment that we're in at this stage.
Gosh. We're talking about the Deep South, Civil War. I'm getting a little nervous about James Venable, her second husband, being a slave owner. I'm interested to know more about who he was.
Well, if he's an adult male at this point, living in the South, he would likely have served in the Confederate forces. So one of the best ways to find out information about him and Elizabeth connected is to look at the Civil War records from the period.
Okay.
So Fold 3 is a website that contains military records for the U.S. And so this is a great way to search.
Wow.
Do you have his middle initial?
E.
Okay.
So V. All right, so Confederate Amnesty Papers.
You click on the image.
James E. Venable.
Excellent.
Holy cow. James E. Venable, Macon, Georgia. Rebellion. Just everyone who was a Confederate soldier was considered a rebel.
In a state of rebellion.
And,
So
right,
that's
the
what-
rebels. Refugee. Refugee, I don't know what that means. So he took refuge in the North.
He came as a refugee to the North. He was recommended by the mayor of Philadelphia for a pardon for his actions in the war.
Pardoned July 5th, 1865. He successfully received it.
it.
Okay. There's so much more that I want to know. Like, when did he flee to the North? And also, what happened to my great-great-grandmother? Elizabeth, how do I find out more?
This is just an index to a larger original file that you could find in the National Archives in Washington, D.C.
I guess I'm going to Washington, D.C. James flees to the North. What's happened to Elizabeth, his wife? And she had 2 babies. I don't know. I want to find out. I'm headed to the National Archives in Washington, D.C. to find out what happened to James and Elizabeth during the Civil War. I'm here to talk to a Civil War researcher named Joseph Beeline. James Venable fled to the North and was pardoned. How did that happen? What was the timeline? What happened to Elizabeth?
We have the original document here. These are James Venable's amnesty papers.
Wow. Never thought I would get to do something like this. Okay, so take the glasses off. Oh, Venable.
At this point, the Civil War has ended. The government, what they were trying to do was let everyone know who fought for the Confederacy or who was somehow pulled into the war that they have an opportunity to receive amnesty.
Okay. Philadelphia, July 1st, 1865. In 62, I was conscripted at my home in Macon, Georgia. This is written by him.
Exactly.
So he's in Philadelphia
Right.
he's at this point right now, and he's saying that he didn't volunteer. He was
That's right.
drafted. Shortly afterward, I was detailed to work at the Macon Arsenal under Colonel Cuyler. On the 1st of July, 63, he had me arrested for being an abolitionist? I'm so excited, are you kidding?